Can fat people have tattoos? Yes, obviously the answer is yes. Fat people can have tattoos. But I just feel like I don't see a lot of fat people with tattoos. Like most industries, the tattoo industry kind of fails to have plus size and fat representation. Whenever I go to the store or Barnes & Noble and look through tattooed magazines, it's usually covered with hyper-feminized women that are thin and white. And I don't really think that showcases the average collector. So before we hop into this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I kind of want to do more videos like this, and if this is something that's interested to you, please stick around. I also want to disclaim that I'm not saying that the tattoo industry is fatphobic or any tattoo artist specifically are fatphobic. It's just kind of something that kind of inherently comes with our society. And these are just concerns that I have and some other concerns that I found while doing research about the topic. And then the last disclaimer I have for this video is that I use fat in a very neutral term. I don't think that fat is bad. I use it as more of an adjective, just like you would use short, tall, muscular, or anything like that. What is keeping fat people from having tattoos? I feel like there is definitely a lot of concerns with being a fat person and wanting tattoos. And the first concern is that they're afraid that tattoo artists don't know how to work on the fat body. And there are a lot of similarity and differences to a fat body and a smaller body, but a lot of the time when people are fat, we tend to have like excess skin or just kind of more fat on different body parts. And usually with fat comes a lot of stretch marks. It's common knowledge that stretch marks are different than kind of normal undamaged skin, and that will really change the tattoo process. Technically, stretch marks are a type of scar tissue, so when tattoo artists are working on a part of the body that have stretch marks, it may be a little more difficult to work with. Of course, tattoos can be applied to stretch marks, but you just have to make sure that you're working with an experienced tattoo artist that knows how to work on stretch marks, because not everyone is trained to work with such skin. And this can be seen as fatphobic because if someone doesn't know how to work on stretch marks, this can inherently be fatphobic because fat people tend to have more stretch marks than thin people. I know that thin people have stretch marks and it's kind of like life just has stretch marks, but usually people that are plus size tend to have more. And that being said, that since fat people usually tend to have more stretch marks, and if they go to an artist that doesn't know how to work on stretch marks, it kind of really decreases the placement and the creativity behind a piece that a fat person can get. So it is really important to find an artist that works with fat people or just has a lot of experience with stretch mark and scar tissues. Another concern is that some people think that only a certain type of body can have tattoos. I think a lot of people have this misconception because there's usually only one type of body that's shown in tattoo media, which is usually like very thin, muscular, white people. And while I know there is a lot of racism in the tattoo industry, which is something I would love to talk in another video, I'm just going to be focusing on kind of the fat phobia side of the industry. It was really hard for me to find information about this subject because I don't feel like anyone really thinks about it besides me and probably people that look like me. While researching this subject, I found an interview with a tattoo artist named Charlene, and she works up in Canada. She talks about how she works with a lot of queer and trans people, and a lot of her clients will report fatphobic remarks that previous artists they went to have said to them. So here's a quote directly from an interview, and Charlene talks about how one of her clients has experienced a tattoo artist questioning why she wants a tattoo on her hip because she's fat, which is just kind of like policing and questioning a fat body when he probably wouldn't do that to a skinny person. And then also Charlene talks about how claiming bodies and their ownership is really hard, especially when people call them wrong or bad, and how society deems them to be. Charlene also talks about how it is constant work to take back the control over your body, and tattooing is sort of like a medium that helps people do that. So it's really counterproductive for tattoo artists to be questioning and making remarks on bodies. Charlene goes on to talk about how it makes people really angry how she tries to break tradition with tattooing, and that's kind of like in a general sense, but then also talking about like misogyny, fat phobia, sexism, and racism. And I'm assuming that most of the people that get angry about this are people that benefit from all of those things being in place, but I still think it's very interesting that we still have to have these topics of discussions. Charlene wants to make sure that when she tattoos, it is a safe place for her and her clients. And I thought this was really interesting, so I took to my Instagram and kind of made a poll to see if any of my followers or mutuals on Instagram have experienced any sort of fat phobia while getting tattooed. While I do believe there is a lot of fat phobia in the industry, my friend Jade talked about a lot of internalized fat phobia that people tend to have. Okay, and then Jade also has a pretty poppin' TikTok if you want to check them out. Here's their TikTok. So Jade is a plus size person and they have quite a few tattoos. So Jade says that a lot of people will comment on their TikTok saying that I want to be tattooed, but I need to lose weight before I do. But Jade doesn't think that's true. Jade says, I believe, and so do a lot of other people, that weight should not hold people back from experiencing life. So if you're fat, then get the damn tattoo. Which I totally love, and I totally agree with Jade on that, because I believe that someone's body shouldn't be a barrier to enjoying things that everyone else does. So if you're fat and you want to get the tattoo, like Jade says, just do it. Something else I hear people talking about is that they are scared that tattoos will stretch over time. And personally, for some reason, I feel like that too. I don't know if there's just like some sort of weird myth I heard before I got tattooed, but I'm always scared that like I'll get like so fat and my tattoo be warped and like you won't even be able to see what it is because of like how my fat gets put on my body and the tattoo stretches. But that's like totally not a thing. And I don't think that's something that a lot of people should be worrying about. I've gained about 40 pounds since I've gotten my sleeve, and I don't think there's too big of a difference, but you let me know what you think. When discussing this topic with another mutual of mine on Instagram that has tattoos, Maddie said that she experienced a tattoo artist expressing fear about his work being ruined if she gained weight, which could cause her skin to stretch. Maddie mentioned that the artist made a lot of weird comments about her body that made her feel extremely guilty for having a body in that moment because it was a threat to the artistic integrity, even though it was her body. I forgot to mention this in the previous clip, but Maddie was getting her sternum done, which is like an underbust kind of stomach tattoo. I feel like if someone in a smaller body was getting this tattoo, the fear of stretching or gaining weight would not be the topic of discussion. And it also kind of villainizes being fat because he's saying that his artwork would be ruined if she gains any more weight, kind of insinuating that being fat or gaining weight kind of ruins things and is bad. Another thing that stops fat people from getting tattoos is accessibility. A lot of tattoo parlors are in pretty small buildings and they work in pretty small spots. They also will make you kind of sit on these like massage bed type of things or just these really small chairs. Obviously this can vary shop to shop and depending where you go, but I definitely feel like in the places I've been tattooed, wherever I get tattooed is usually in a small place. It definitely feels crowded and sometimes there is a lack of personal space. A lot of the furniture that's used is obviously standardized, so it's made for people in smaller bodies. And not everyone can fit on those things. Again, when I did the poll on my Instagram, a mutual named Hey had something to say. Tay said to me, as a fat person, it's sometimes hard for me to sit up on those tables to get tattooed. When I said I couldn't fit around one way, the tattoo artist ignored me and I walked the other way towards him to get on the table. And he laughed and said to move back and get on the other way. He talked to me like I was stupid and he even rolled his eyes. It was so embarrassing because I shouldn't have to explain over and over again that I can't fit through a small space and move around. So when I went around to try and squeeze, I had to move the table and he shoved it back. I felt like he was pissy that day, but also rude not to accommodate for a fat person. And while I'm super upset to hear that experience that Tay had, I don't think it is like a very unusual one, just how small of an area that a tattoo artist usually works in. And I just want to say, like, if you're getting tattooed and you feel like an artist is being rude to you, and even if you think you're experiencing any sort of fat phobia, you can leave at any time. Like, just because you gave someone a down payment and said you wanted to get tattooed doesn't mean you have to sit there and be uncomfortable the whole time. You have rights as a client. How you feel is definitely important and should be their top priority. And speaking of the situation, it reminds me a lot of the conversations of kind of like how airplane seats are pretty small and how that can be seen as fat phobic. It's also been shown that airline seats are shrinking more and more every year. And I just want to say that no matter where you are and no matter how big you are or how small you are, you deserve to take up space. Being accommodated for is a human right, and it should be normalized. So we've talked about some concerns that fat people have while getting tattooed, but where's all the representation? Tay brought up another point when I was talking with them, and they said that they feel like a lot of tattoo artists don't post the work they do on a fat person. Tay says that whenever she gets a tattoo on arm, the tattoo artist will put it on their Instagram, but when Tay gets a tattoo on a more visibly fat part of their body, doesn't usually make it to the gram. Situations like this kind of make the mind wander. Are tattoo artists ashamed to work on the fat body? As someone that's fat, or plus size, or mid-size, or whatever you want to call it, it's really important for myself to see representation in all parts of life, especially like fashion and media. But I still feel like there's parts of me that are kind of craving to see fat people in the tattoo industry. I think it's really important to start having these conversations because it is important to find people in fat bodies that look like you and are experiencing the same thing as you. It can be really validating, but also you can ask questions. Like for myself, on videos that I post, especially I just got a tattoo on my forearm, and a lot of people had concerns about getting that tattooed on themselves because they're also fat. People think, can I have a tattoo in that part of my body? Or how would that piece look on me? Those thoughts wouldn't have to happen if we just saw more representation. So where can I find all these hot tattooed fat people? You're in for a treat, sis. So if you are also fat and looking to find people that are fat with tattoos, you should totally look up this Facebook group called Fat Tats. Everyone in the group is fat and or has tattoos or is interested in tattoos, and there's a lot of good conversations being had about the body, stretch marks, tattoos, and really anything you could think of about being tattooed and fat. I found out about this group because of Jade, so obviously I have to give them credit. There's also this new app called Tatted. It's pretty small, but I think it's pretty interesting. The app is made kind of like Instagram or kind of like a Yelp to find tattoo artists, and they kind of just like post pictures so you can see their work. You can also search certain things, find locations, pricings, and styles. So if you're interested in that, you should totally check it out. And things I've been looking up lately on Instagram are hashtag fat tats and hashtag fat tattoos, just to see what's going around there. So I think if we start using those hashtags all together, maybe we can sort of build more of a community and find more pictures under those tags. They're pretty limited right now, but I think that's something we could get poppin'. And the first person I think of when it comes to being plus size and having tattoos is Tess Holiday, just because I feel like that is definitely like the most mainstream person that is fat and has tattoos. She has a lot of work, and she has a lot of different work too. She has a lot of styles, and I think all of them like mash perfectly, and they're all just individually very beautiful pieces. And if you're part of like the body positive or fat acceptant movements on the internet, you might be familiar with Fat Girl Flo. She has quite a lot of videos about being plus size and tattoos, so if you want to check out her videos, I'll make sure to link them down below because she does have quite a few videos about tattoos and some vlogs that are really fun to check out. I will also make sure to leave a link in the description of some other people that are fat with tattoos that I think you should check out. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. It was kind of very different for me and kind of like way more stressful than like every other video I've made, but I think it's really fun and interesting to do deep dives about fatness or like tattoos or really anything that is interesting for me, okay? I don't know. But thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And if you really like me, maybe you can hit that notification bell. Thank you so much. Adios.